Welcome to part 5 in this series produced by the New York State Association of Healthcare Providers, HCP, where we hope you'll learn more about COVID-19 vaccines and why they're so necessary for the world to get back to normal after fighting this pandemic. I'm Carol Dio, a pharmacist and certified immunizer from HCP's public policy team. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the creation of the vaccines to explain how you can be sure they're safe and effective, even though they became available so quickly. The speed of COVID-19 vaccine development came from efficient, serious work in 3 general areas: funding, research, and regulations. The major takeaway from my talking to you today is that no steps were skipped in making sure the COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. The products all went through the same review and testing as other drugs and vaccines. The difference this time is that experts looked at data while the scientists worked, instead of after they were done. Scientists across the globe usually work in small teams, studying different infections, the bugs that cause them, and how we can prevent illnesses with immunizations. When the virus that causes COVID-19 was discovered, scientists and healthcare workers from all over the world knew this virus was a real danger. They quickly began studying the virus, sharing information and resources, and looking for ways to stop it with vaccines. Remember, this is a worldwide pandemic. The United States was not alone in trying to create COVID-19 vaccines. Many other countries are helping with research and vaccine distribution for their citizens too. Here in the US, Operation Warp Speed was launched, and our federal government, along with universities and lots of private industries, contributed to the search for a COVID-19 vaccine. Money, facilities, and brainpower were pulled from all kinds of other projects, and everyone cooperated to research, manufacture, and distribute these vaccines. The amount of money put towards COVID-19 vaccines is enormous. The goal was to begin giving Americans safe, effective vaccines in a year or less. And here we are, receiving vaccines in record time. Now let's talk about the research and the processes used to make the vaccine and how that happened so quickly. When information on COVID-19 was discovered early last year, it was shared right away so the entire world could work on vaccines. Sure, this specific coronavirus was new, but it's very similar to bugs we already understood. Coronaviruses have been studied for a very long time. Even common colds are caused by coronaviruses. So scientists had the tools and the technology already in place, thanks to the years of work on other vaccines, such as one for the first SARS virus over 15 years ago. In fact, mRNA vaccines have been studied for decades for preventing other infections, as well as for treating melanoma, prostate cancer, and other cancers. Scientists were not starting from scratch. Because this was a worldwide emergency, there were many different possible vaccines being studied at once. There still are. So if one isn't right, it drops out and there are many more to explore. And scientists work on many different kinds of vaccines with lots of different targets for this virus. Because of this large number and wide variety of options, we soon had several good candidates. Normally, that takes years. The first US vaccine was in a vial, ready for clinical trials early in 2020, just weeks after the virus was discovered here at home. It also helps that the technology used in these new vaccines makes them super fast and pretty low cost to prepare. The safety and efficacy part of research and development came next. Usually, drug and vaccine makers do just one step at a time. Step 2 doesn't start until step 1 is finished and reviewed, and so on for many years. Because this is a global pandemic, governments across the globe allowed manufacturers and researchers to keep moving. Experts studied the data as things went along, with no breaks in between. Exploration, clinical trials, regulatory review, and quality control were all happening at the same time instead of in stages. This greatly reduced the amount of time to get the vaccine into people's arms. Instead of waiting for months for their scheduled meetings, the FDA held emergency public sessions to look at the safety and efficacy data. The Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices met on weekends to approve dosing and decide who the vaccines are right for. And the vaccines themselves were on a truck ready to ship as soon as they were approved. You could think of COVID-19 vaccine development like making Sunday dinner. It's a whole lot quicker if the roast beef is in the oven while the potatoes are being peeled, while the salad is being tossed, while the table is being set, than if all those steps were done one at a time. Manufacturers were even making large amounts of vaccine before they were approved, so they could be ready to ship as soon as possible. Normally, they wouldn't want to risk the money by doing that in case they aren't successful. This was another way that the government funding really sped up the process. The government took on a lot of the financial risk. With everyone eager to end the pandemic, many people signed up to be in the clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines. The trials compare people who get the vaccine to people who get no vaccine, a placebo. This is the standard way scientists always show that medicines and vaccines are safe and effective. More people in a study means less time to get information for approval. Clinical trials review both safety and efficacy, and usually use less than a few thousand people. Some COVID-19 vaccine trials had over 40,000 people in them. That helped scientists know a lot about the vaccines in less time. So what did these studies show? We now have 3 vaccines to use in the United States. All 3 are effective for preventing serious illness and death from COVID-19. We're also seeing that the vaccines prevent the spread of the virus. Side effects are mild and much less dangerous than COVID infection. The studies show they're right for nearly every adult, and now the vaccines are being studied in children too. They're being studied for the variants you hear about. They're being studied in pregnant women. And remember that data is still being collected during the vaccine rollout. We now have over 30 million people who are protected from COVID-19 in this country alone, and the vaccines are still proving the same safety and efficacy as the early trials showed. So we've seen that extra money, lots of scientists, great technology, expert attention, and large trials really helped speed things up to get COVID-19 vaccines to us in under a year. Careful data collection and review by many experts from private and public sectors will ensure vaccine safety today, tomorrow, and far into the future. The speed of COVID-19 vaccine development has shown us what the scientists and regulators can accomplish together. So this might mean bigger, faster progress for other vaccines and medicines too. As supplies increase, more and more people will be vaccinated against COVID-19, and eventually we can go back to the life we knew before this terrible pandemic. Until then, wash your hands, wear your mask, and watch your distance. And protect yourself, your families, and your patients by getting vaccinated as soon as you're able. Knowledge is power, and here at HCP, we hope you'll watch and share all the videos in our Take 5 to Fight COVID series, which is also available in Spanish, thanks to our generous associate member, Navon. You'll learn about vaccine safety, side effects, and much more. Thanks for joining us.